Today in this all levels yoga class, we're going to focus on strengthening and opening our glutes and our hamstrings. So find a place that you're comfortable in your body, and that can be sitting. You could recline if you like to. If you're sitting, support yourself with something high enough underneath your hips that your hip flexors at the front can release. And then slowly close your eyes. Bring your hands to rest down on your legs or on your thighs. Let's begin with a clearing breath. Inhale slowly through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. And close your mouth. Continue to breathe deeply. And work towards the pattern of full yogic breath. How that goes is each time you breathe in, try to breathe from a place low in your torso to a place high in your torso. And when you exhale, let the exhalation gradually settle back down towards your pelvis. As you inhale, breathe first towards your belly and let the breath gradually rise up, up, up. And when you exhale, the breath settles you back down. As you continue to breathe on your own, add a gentle toning to the back of your throat. Just enough that you can hear the sound of your breath. This is called Ujjayi breathing, and it will help you keep your breath slow and regular. Be comfortable too adding a pause at the top of your inhalation before you breathe out again. Likewise, after the exhalation, when you're empty of breath, perhaps a pause before the next inhale. And in breathing in this way, you're creating space, holding space for your attention and for the sensations that will arise through your practice. Now, the next time you breathe in, reach your fingertips up towards the ceiling so you get a long side body stretch. And then as you exhale, make a couple fists and round your spine. Bring your chin in towards your chest. Moving back to an inhale, reach your arms forward and up. And then exhale to round your spine. Okay, let's take two more, a slow inhale. And a long exhale. Okay, one more time. Breathe in, reach up tall. And then exhale. Okay, let your arms come by your sides. If you're sitting on a prop, just take that away so you're actually right down on your mat. Take your feet out ahead of you and then lean back into your hands and separate your feet a little wider than your hips. And then let your knees move side to side like windshield wipers. So as your knees move, feel free to lift up the opposite hip so you can get a little bit more rotation that moves actually away from your hips towards a lower spinal twist. And then I'll leave Chris to it. Sweep your legs around and come up to your hands and your knees. Okay, so we're going to come back into spinal flexion and extension, loosening up our spine a little bit more. So from a tabletop shape, spread your fingers apart from each other. And as you inhale, roll your pelvis forward, creating a back bend, and roll your shoulders back. And as you exhale, lift your belly button up and round your spine, your tailbone and head come down, moving back to the inhale, a slow opening of your front body. And then the exhale to round your spine and stretch your back body. Okay, so take a couple more, 2 or 3 more at your own pace. Okay, so let the next round be the last one. When you finish off the exhalation, come back into a neutral spine. And let's move to child's pose. Take your knees a little wider if you're comfortable too, and your toes closer. And then settle your hips back towards your heels. If you don't feel great in your knees to take your hips back this far, you can also keep your hips higher and your knees closer. And you can do what you like with your arms. Your hands can even support your forehead, so your neck can be a little more passive. Bring the ground up to you whenever you need to. Okay, and so we come back to focusing on the breath. Take your next inhale really slow, really deep. And then a long exhale. All right, walk your hands back towards your knees and come to stand up or kneel on your knees. Not all the way to stand, but take your hands out ahead of you and clasp your hands and then roll your knuckles around in a few circles. So in yoga, we do spend more time on our hands in day-to-day life. We can become more quadrupedal, so we open up these joints so they're prepared for this. Yeah, and take your hands the other way too if you haven't already. Okay, and then separate your hands, shake out your hands. Grab a hold of a block if you have one. If not, you can just imagine it's there and place it in between your thighs. Okay, and then come back to your hands and your knees. And you can choose I would like you to tuck your toes under so you have a little bit of friction. With your fingers spread apart from each other, roll your shoulders away from your ears. Hug your thighs into the block. Lift your lower belly to your spine. And then if you're comfortable, hover your knees about 1 centimeter away from the ground. I'd like you to observe how you feel through your core, your inner thighs, and pelvic floor. And then keep all that action, but set your knees back down to the mat. Okay, so you're still really engaged through your core. Keep everything the same through your left leg, your lower back, and core, but as you breathe in, bring your right knee back. Keep the right angle bend in your right knee. Yeah, just drawing it back without creating a back bend. Yeah, so we'll just pause here for a moment. If you can even look towards the screen, you want to keep that little bit of rounding through your lower back. So essentially you're using your left glutes to lift your leg, and then bring your right knee back down near your left knee. Okay. Tuck your toes again. Hug into the block. It's probably slipped out of place. It's okay with a little rounding through your lower back. Hover your knees again so you feel your core at work. And then without losing that action, bring your knees back down. So you still have that toning through your abdominals. And then draw your left leg back. Your leg may not actually lift that high, where instead of coming into a back bend, keeping that little curl through your lower back with your tailbone lengthening in a downward direction. Really using your glutes on the left side instead of your lower back muscles. Okay, and then bring your left knee down to the mat. Okay, take your knees a little wider. Let's set back in child's pose just to get a bit of a break off your hands. And then we're going to try that again, but we're going to try it in some motion, moving with the breath. Okay. All right, so as you're ready, come back up to your hands and knees. Curl your toes under with your knees hip-width distance apart. Lift up through your lower belly. Curl your tailbone down. Keep your left leg still. As you inhale, bring your right knee back. Keep a right angle in your right knee. And as you exhale, lower your right knee towards your left. Yeah, moving with your breath. With an inhale, lift. Great. And exhale to lower. So keep going as you breathe. And don't be surprised if your leg doesn't feel like it's really lifting as high as you know it could if you let your back sway. We're trying to stay away from that shape. Okay. So how about one more? That was probably 5. About 5, okay. Bring your knee down. Let's switch sides. Same with your left leg. Draw your left leg back. Awesome. And then exhale. Yeah, keep smoothness in your lower back as you lift your leg, maybe not too high, and exhale. Yeah. So when I first tried this out, keep going, but when I first tried this out, I found I was trembling because my body couldn't really figure out what to do, how to create this movement without using a back bend. Okay, so soon you'll be coming around to the last one, and as you are, let your knees touch down. Okay, and then it'll be another small rest in child's pose, really so you can get off your hands. Let's also make this a side body stretch. And so bring your upper body towards the right and reach your left hand away from your left hip. And when you inhale, let the left side of your rib cage open like an accordion. And when you exhale, let that side soften. When you inhale again, lift your head up and walk across center to stretch out your right side. Place your right hand away from your right hip. Settle your body down. Nice slow breaths to expand, open through the right side. Each exhale helps you relax. Okay. Great. And then lift your head up, come back to center, come up to your hands and knees, and let's come through to downward facing dog. Yeah, so tuck your toes under and lift your knees up as you're ready. And when you meet down dog, you can make any kind of movements that feel good to open up tight spaces in your ankles or the undersides of your feet, certainly into your hamstrings too. And try to relax your neck muscles. Yeah, let your head be heavy. Okay, then place a bend in your knees. Look forward to your hands. By stepping or walking, bring your feet forward to the front of your mat to Uttanasana, standing forward fold. Now, if you have a block, if you could place that in between your thighs, just as you did from your hands and knees. If not, don't worry about it. Just try to hug your inner thighs towards each other. Bring yourself right over the arches of your feet, and when you inhale next time, hug into the block and come up to a halfway lift, a nice long spine. Great. As you exhale, bow back in towards your legs. We'll do this a couple more times. As you inhale, come up to a halfway lift. Maybe your hands are on your shins, and exhale to bow. Okay, still hugging the block. Inhale to a halfway lift. Now this time, pause in the halfway lift and keep breathing. Lift your belly button up towards your spine so you're a little more secure through your core, and then bring your hands up to your hips. Now bend your knees, hug your legs into the block, sit your hips back and down, and then lift your chest a little higher so you can breathe better. Lengthen your tailbone down towards the ground using your lower belly, and then bring your hands to heart center. Chair pose Uttanasana. If you'd like to add a little more through your shoulders, then you could reach your arms out with your palms facing each other. And notice how your feet meet the mat. As you press down through your feet, bring yourself over the arches of your feet, still hugging into the block. Coming towards the end of the pose, and next time you breathe in, still hug in, but lengthen up towards the ceiling, reach up. Great, and then bring your arms down by your sides. Okay, let's take a moment or two to pause in mountain pose. We're making it a little bit more active. If you do have a block, continue to hug in towards the block so your inner leg lines are staying awake. And then on your next inhale, float your arms up, taking a full stretch. Then place a little bend in your knees, fold forward from your hips, and come down to Uttanasana, standing forward fold. I encourage you, especially if one of your blocks would be underneath your hands at the moment, put enough bend in your knees that you don't feel any strain in your back body. Okay, now with your fingertips down on the ground, step your right foot back and take a long stride. And then put your hands either onto blocks or bring your hands right underneath your shoulders to the mat and keep this knee lifted. Back knee lifted, yeah. Okay, now roll your left hip back and hug your right inner thigh forward. And as you inhale, keep your right knee up as it is, but as you exhale, bring your right knee down to hover just about an inch away from the mat. Okay, then inhale, straighten out your back leg using your right glutes, and exhale to bend your knee. We'll keep going, and inhale to straighten out your legs, shoulders back, a long spine, exhale to bend. Great, and then one more time. And exhale, and this time bring your knee right down, so you could put a block underneath your knee. Press down through your left foot, lift your upper body, and bring your hands either to heart center or raise your arms up overhead, a low lunge. Yeah, so this gives you the chance to stretch into the front of your right hip. If you feel comfortable, you can move your hips forward and down. Keep the pressure through the sole of your left foot really firm. And then to use your left hamstrings and glutes a little more, hug your left heel back. So your foot doesn't actually move, but you feel the activation through the underside of your thigh. Now, when you breathe out next time, lean forward, bring your hands under your shoulders, and then lift your right knee off the mat so you're back in a runner's lunge. Walk your hands ahead of your shoulders. I do recommend blocks for this. Step forward onto your left foot and lift your right leg towards hip height. Okay, as much as you can, even out the height of your hips. Yeah, and as Chris has just done, readjust your hands so they're underneath your shoulders as they are now. Except move your right hand a little wider to the right. And then shift your body to the right enough that there's some real weight in your right hand, enough so that you can lift your left hand up and make a fist, and then bring your left arm towards the inside of your left leg, so it's your forearm that meets your inner thigh. And then with your left arm quite straight so it's rigid, push your forearm into your left inner thigh and hug your left inner thigh in towards your forearm. Okay, let's try to keep that activation and bring your left hand back down to the ground so your inner thigh's awake. When you exhale, lower your right foot towards your left foot, but just hover your foot away from the ground. And as you inhale, float your right leg back and up, again, using your glutes again. Exhale to bring your foot down. We'll do this 2 more times. And inhale to lift up and back. Great, and exhale to draw down, and then 1 more time, inhaling, and exhale. Okay, step your right foot back, a nice long lunge stride, walk your hands off the blocks underneath your shoulders, down dog, so bring your left foot back as well. Oh, just let your body settle into your foundation. There's nothing you need to really lift with purpose away from the ground except for your hips to keep your spine nice and long. Okay, so you can also come to your hands and knees if you're not as comfortable with downward facing dog. We're going to come forward to plank pose in a moment, so you can just time that with your next inhale, come forward. Now we're going to take a pause in plank, so know you can bring your knees down to the ground if you wish. Remembering how we were on all fours at the beginning of class, try to lengthen your tailbone down, lift your lower belly up, and then roll your shoulders back, bring the center of your chest forward. And when you breathe out next time, slowly bend your elbows and carefully lower your body down to the ground. Untuck your toes. Okay, now reach your hands back, but turn your palms to face down on your mat. Okay, lengthen out your legs, press down through the tops of your feet, and so your pubic bone is pushing down. You can keep your chin down and your head down. Also, keep your right leg down. As you inhale, try to hover or lift your left leg away from the ground. Great, and then exhale to bring it down. As you inhale, lengthen and lift through your leg, and then exhale, bring it down. We'll do 1 more this way. So an inhale to lift up. And then as you exhale, bring it down, but barely to the mat, just hovering. Now as you inhale, take your left leg out wide on a diagonal. So a little lift and a little abduction. As you exhale, bring your foot towards your right one. So inhale out to the side, but a little lift too. So you feel a squeeze in your glutes, and then exhale down. Okay, let's try that 3 more times. So lifting up and away. Great. And an exhale. And then 1 more time. All right. And then an exhale. Okay, bring your leg down, create a pillow for your head, look towards the left, and then bend your left knee so it comes wide off your mat, just as high as you wish, so you can bring a little bit of space across your glutes and also just allow those muscles to turn off entirely. Yeah, let your breath be nice and deep. 1 more slow one. And then stretch out your leg behind you. Curl your toes under. Bring your palms by your ribs. Your knees can come down. If you wish, you could keep them hovering. That'll be a little more difficult. Push down into the mat and then push up to downward facing dog. Bring your hips up and back behind you. All right. Now, as you inhale, lift your left leg up and step your left foot forward up to your left hand. We're going to come up to a high lunge this time, so hug your inner thighs towards each other, lift your upper body, and then bring your hands onto your hips to begin. So don't worry about really straightening out your back leg. In fact, we're going to work as we did when your hands are on the ground, varying the bend in your knee. Take your hands onto your left thigh and let your upper body lean forward a little bit so you can really put some weight there. and keep your left hip rolled back, your right hip drawn forward. Now this will be where you inhale with your leg pretty straight. As you exhale, try bending your right knee and see how low it can go towards the mat. Okay, then inhale, lift up through the back of your thigh using your right glutes and hamstrings, and exhale, bend your knee. Inhale to come back up. Let's take 2 more from here. So an exhale. Great, and 1 more time. And then exhale. Okay, lift your knee back up, but lean forward. Bring your hands to blocks or the ground. Now step forward, come up to a halfway lift. And as you exhale, bow in towards your legs. Let's just take a moment to rest here. So some of the effort of using these muscles of your back body and the warmth that creates can now come into the benefit of stretching and opening and loosening up these soft tissues. Now when you breathe in next time, come up to a halfway lift. Exhale, fold in towards your legs. Again, inhale to a halfway lift, but be prepared to hold, so do keep breathing. Lift your belly button towards your spine, hug your inner thighs towards each other, bring your hands up to your hips, and as you push your feet to the ground, inhale, come up the rest of the way to mountain pose, and let your arms come to rest by your sides. Chris reminded me on the way up, I actually just missed a pose. We can add it now. Bring your hands to heart center, bend your knees to sit down in chair pose, Utkatasana. Okay, so we don't have the block this time, or I didn't guide with it, but let's pretend it's there. So as you're over the arches of your feet, without knocking your knees towards each other, try to hug the whole parallel shape of your thigh bones towards each other and add a lift through your pelvic floor. A downward lengthening of your tailbone and an upward lifting of your sternum, the center of your chest. Great. Now the next time you inhale, come up to stand, reach up towards the ceiling. And whenever you exhale, bring your hands down by your sides, mountain pose. And we've done a fair bit of work in our glutes even so far. Just make sure when you meet mountain pose that you're not clenching your glutes at all. So we don't want to roll our pelvis back. Just let them soften a bit. Your big muscles don't need to work as hard as we come up to stand. We're working with the finer tuned postural muscles deep inside. Okay. Now as you inhale, float your arms up with a little bend in your knees, bow forward from your hips. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Step your left foot back, take a long lunge stride. And then walk your hands under your shoulders again. So here, blocks can work well. We're staying in a runner's lunge. Before we begin the movement, draw your right hip back, your left thigh bone, hug it forward, and then roll your shoulders back. Keep the center of your chest moving forward. And this is the shape we'll inhale into. When you exhale, bend your left knee to hover it off the mat. And then inhale to straighten out your left leg. And then an exhale to bend your knee. Keep moving with your breath. Let's take 2 or 3 more. And then through the movement, let the breath guide the pace, but also take time to notice inside what you feel working. What parts of your body are enabling you to create this kind of motion. And now the next time that your knee comes close to the mat, let it set all the way down or put it on a soft block. Push down through your right foot, lift your upper body, a low lunge. Your hands can come to heart center, or you can raise your arms up overhead. And then it's up to you whether you keep your hips floating up and back or whether you settle your hips forward and down. So there will be a shape that feels like a good combination between the strengthening elements of the pose and the opening elements of the pose, which here will principally be in the front of your left hip. Okay, hug your right heel back just enough that you feel the underside of your right thigh awake, your hamstrings. Okay. And then when you breathe out next time, slowly lean forward, bring your hands down to the ground. Okay, let's step your hands forward or walk your hands forward, tuck your back toes under, and then take a step forward onto your right foot and lift your left leg up towards hip height. So blocks work very well for your hands again. Move your left hand a little wider to the left, and then put some weight into your left hand. Yeah, that's wide enough. Okay, we're giving ourselves space for your right arm. So make a fist and take your right arm to the inside of your upper thigh and straighten out your right arm so it's strong, and using the strength of your right shoulder, press your arm bone into your right inner thigh. And then hug your right inner thigh in towards your arm bone. Lift through your pelvic floor, bring the center of your chest forward. Try to keep that engagement and slowly place your right hand down to the block again, or down to the ground. Now, next inhale, you'll stay as you are, but as you exhale, bring your left foot down near your right foot so it's hovering right towards here. And then inhale, lift your leg up and back. Great. And then exhale, bring your leg forward and down. 2 more times, an inhale. And an exhale. Okay, this last one we take as you inhale, bring your leg up without creating any sway through your back. And then exhale, bring your foot down. Yeah, bend your right knee. Set your foot back, walk your hands underneath your shoulders, and step back to downward facing dog. Yeah, just allow downward facing dog to take on any shape, any kind of movement that feels right to help ease what has worked hard and to open space where you feel tightness. Okay. Again, you can also be on your hands and knees, and I'll guide verbally what the transition would look like this way. Come into plank pose, and if you're on your hands and knees, that'll come by walking your hands ahead of your shoulders and then shift your body forward so your shoulders are over your wrists. Roll your shoulders back, lift your lower belly towards your spine. Your knees can be up or your knees can be on the mat. Stay with the pose while you breathe in next time, but when you exhale, bend your elbows and carefully lower right down to the mat. Okay, just as we did before, reach your hands back, turn your palms to face down, so your thumbs are out, pinky fingers are in. Straighten out your legs, even walk your toes back a little bit so you know they're straight. And then your head can stay down. We're working with our lower body, so keep your left leg straight. As you inhale, float your right inner thigh up. It could hover or lift. And then exhale, bring your leg back down. Yeah, so an inhale to lift up or to hover. And an exhale to lower. 2 more times, breathing in and breathing out. Once more, inhale. Okay, and exhale. Now a little bit different. As you inhale, take your foot out wide and up. Jill, you feel your glutes, and exhale to bring it back down towards your left. Inhale, flying up on a diagonal. Great. And then exhale. 2 more, and inhale, and an exhale. Great. 1 more time, inhale, and exhale. Great. Rest your foot to the mat. Create a pillow for your head, look towards the right. Bend your right knee so it comes wide off towards the side, and allow some weight to come into your inner knee. Soften through the back of your hips. Let your breath be full, opening space through your lower back and through the back side of your pelvis. Okay. And then slowly bring your right leg back. Bring your palms down by your ribs, curl your toes under, push away from the ground, and come up to downward facing dog. When you inhale, float your right leg up, and then step your right foot forward to your right hand, preparing for a high lunge. So hug your inner thighs towards each other. When you feel stable, lift your upper body, bring your hands onto your hips to start. Okay, so try to align your pelvis to face forward, and then bring your hands to your right thigh and lean forward and put a little weight into your hands. Okay, as you inhale, stay much as you are. But as you exhale, bend your left knee as low as you feel comfortable to go. Inhale, straighten out your back leg. And then exhale to bend your knee. Yeah, 2 more on your own. Yeah, try to isolate the motion as much as you can to what you're doing with your left leg. Of course, the rest of your body will need to readjust, but we're focusing. Yeah, is there 1 more? And then bring your hands down to the ground underneath your shoulders. Step your left foot forward, come up to a halfway lift as you arrive. And as you exhale, bow in towards your legs. Again, take a little pause so your back body can soften up. Now you can bend your knees and even rest your torso completely on your thighs if you like. Now how you come up to stand is up to you. If you're comfortable ragdolling your way up, I recommend you bend your knees as you do that. We'll meet in mountain pose. Okay, so next in the class we're going to work into a standing balance with the help of a strap. If you don't have a strap at home, it could be a belt. You can even pause the video if you want to get your hands on that, but I'll give the strap to Chris now. We're going to be standing on our left foot first, and so take your hands around the strap. Both hands can come to the strap. And then if you don't have a strap, I'll guide some options there too, and maybe that can be me facing you. Okay, shift your weight onto your left foot, and then lift your right heel and lift your right knee up. So if you have the strap, take the strap like a stirrup around the sole of your right foot, but if you don't, clasp your hands to the underside of your right leg. Okay, now try to lift up through your left kneecap, your standing leg, and hug your right thigh bone back and towards your right hip. And then slowly press the sole of your right foot forward, so you're making your legs straighter. And if you're using the strap, you can hold your leg up mostly with your arms, with your leg higher or lower. And walk your hands out the strap enough that your arms can be long, but draw your shoulders back and down. So try to keep your breath steady, and don't worry if you need to reach out to a wall or to a couch. All right, now put just a little bend in your right knee, enough that the strap falls away. Let the right side of the strap go so you can take it into your left hand. Okay, bring your palms together to heart center. Now put more of a bend into your right knee, bend your standing left knee, and step your right foot back slowly. And when your toes land to the ground, bring your heel down also for warrior one pose. Okay, now stretch out your left leg. And if your stride is quite long, make it just a little bit shorter. And then, oh, I forgot warrior one, excuse me. You were in warrior one pose. Let's start with that. Lunge your left knee so it comes over your left heel. Angle your torso to face forward. Now take your hands onto the strap again, taking your hands just a little bit wider than shoulder width distance apart so you can put some tension into the strap. If you don't have a strap, just take your hands a little wider than shoulders, and then reach your arms up overhead. Yeah, settle your shoulders down and let the strap hold tension so your arms don't have to do quite as much work. Lengthen down through your tailbone, up through the center of your chest. As you reach up, if there's room to even draw back a little bit and give yourself some space through your front body. Yeah, let the friction of your hands on the strap be felt so you can trust its tension to allow you to express a little bit more openness. All right. And then bring yourself back upright. Straighten out your left leg, bring your arms down. Now shorten up your stride a little, a couple inches is good. We're going to come to pyramid pose. If you'd like to use a strap, that's an option too. You can bring it around the back side of your pelvis, and much like you did in the front, hold your hands on the strap evenly. If you're comfortable clasping your hands, it could be that too. Now straighten out your arms, bring your arms back, roll your left hip back as you inhale, lift up through your chest. And then as you exhale, tip forward from your hips. So we're developing a hamstring stretch, and you're welcome on the way in to put a micro bend or even a more noticeable bend in your left knee. The stretch will probably find you anyway, and it could give your hamstrings just a little bit less, a little bit of slack, so there's less tension. Okay, so try to keep your left hip drawn back, your right hip settling forward and down. And the center of your chest lengthen forward, so you're working with your upper back muscles. Make sure you're breathing. We're almost towards the end of the pose. Great. Okay. Stay low to the ground. Bring your hands down. Release the strap so you can bring your hands right down to the ground. Bend your left knee, and then step back into downward facing dog. Just let your back body release. As you inhale, lift your heels up higher. As you exhale, bend your knees, look forward, bring your feet up to your hands. You can walk there, stride there, even hop there. Grab a hold of the strap as you breathe in, come up to a halfway lift. As you exhale, fold from your hips to bow in, and then how you come up to stand is up to you again. We'll meet in mountain pose. And as you come to mountain pose, just take a moment to ease your shoulders and find your steady foundation again. Okay, now we're transferring the balance onto your right foot, so use the strap if you wish. If not, you can use your hands. Shift your weight into your right foot when you're ready. Lift your left heel, and then lift your left foot up. If you're not using a strap, take your hands to the underside of your left thigh. If you are, the strap comes like a stirrup in the sole of your left foot. Lift up through your right kneecaps. Your standing leg is pretty straight. If you feel your pelvis tipping back and down, then you might want to lower your left foot down enough that you can be fairly upright with your pelvis. Draw your lower belly back towards your spine, so hugging the expression of strength in your lower back. Keep the center of your chest lifted, your shoulders down, jaw soft, and your tongue soft, and your breath steady. Now put just a little bend in your knee. If you're using a strap, that'll allow you to let go of the strap, no problem. At home, everyone's going, oh, thank goodness, it's not only me. Bend your left knee more, and then bend your right knee too. So you can take a slow step back to warrior one. Let your right knee bend over your heel. Okay, so if you have the strap, this is what you can use to help open your chest for the next pose. Take both hands on the strap a little wider than your shoulders, and then open your hands apart from each other. Keep the lunge forward in your right knee, lengthen your tailbone down, lift your chest, and then lift your arms too. Okay, and pull your hands apart from each other for a moment, just stretching into the strap. Know the strap is there to hold you. If you're comfortable, continue to lift up, and there could be a little bit of a back bend added, where a little goes a long way, and as best as you can, try to lift the back bend up in towards the back of your heart, freeing space across the front of your rib cage. Last breath in for this pose, and then as you exhale, come upright and bring your arms by your sides. Straighten out your right leg. If your stride is quite long in warrior one, make it a little bit shorter. Your feet at the same angle though. Now bring your hands behind you. If you'd like to continue to use the strap, take it much like you did in warrior one. Make the strap tense. Settle your shoulder blades down your back. Roll your right hip back. Lift up through your front body, and then fold into your right hip crease to settle into pyramid pose. So you're welcome to lift your hands away from your lower back if that feels comfortable in your shoulders. When your arm bones get more vertical, there's going to be more downward pressure into the fronts of your shoulders, so make sure you are using the strength of your upper back to lift your shoulders away from the ground, even as you tip forward from your hips, so your spine stays long. All right, make sure that you're still breathing steadily. We're coming towards the end of the pose. So let's leave it by putting a bend in your right knee, lower your hands down right underneath your shoulders, and then step back, downward facing dog. Okay. Breathe in to come forward into plank pose. Exhale, bend your elbows and lower down to the ground. Great. There's two offerings for this next pose. Reach your hands back, this time with your palms facing your hips. One is Shalambhasana locust pose. The other is Dhanurasana bow pose. Why don't we do one of each, and Dhanurasana can be up to you. So press down through the front of your hips with your legs straight. Float the fronts of your shoulders away from the ground so your upper back is toned. If you're comfortable lifting your chest too, you can. Reach your hands back so your hands are floating. And now your legs can stay on the ground like the pose began, or if you're comfortable, float up both of your inner thighs and try to keep your legs straight. Sometimes in the effort to lift your legs, you may put a bend in your knees, but as we're working here, we are keeping our legs straight. Push down actively through the front of your pelvis, belly, lowest set of ribs if you've lifted your legs. Great. And then soften down. Create a pillow for your head. This time the release will be bend your knees rather, and then rock your heels gently side to side. It's kind of like we started the class from your seat, bringing some space into your hips, into your lower back. Okay. Now, the next pose can be the same, Shalambhasana, or if this time you're okay to take Dhanurasana bow pose, it could be that too. Now bend your knees, reach your hands back, float the fronts of your shoulders up. That's the last thing I was going to do actually. Can you just release your hands for a moment? Okay, so reach your hands back, bend your knees so your heels are over your knees, and then float the fronts of your shoulders up. Flex your feet so the soles of your feet are facing towards the ceiling, and hug your inner thighs towards each other. Keep your left thigh bone pressed down into the ground and see if you can float your right thigh bone up. So there's lots of strength in your glutes. Bring your right leg down. Let's try the other leg. Lift your left thigh bone up. Okay, great. Bring your left thigh bone down, knowing that you can do that. Now lift your toes up as you lift through your chest, reach your hands back, grab a hold of your feet. Some of the effort is moved into your arms, but some remains in the active lift of your legs. So it's a combination. So now if you've brought your arms into the pose, then you can press your feet back into your hands, but continue to lift up from your thigh bones and lift up through the back edges of your ears. Great. And then as you breathe out next time, soften down. The release can be simply lying down. It could also be bringing your big toes to touch and let your heels roll open from each other. Yeah, you can move your hips a little side to side if you like. Just any kind of intuitive release that feels good in your body. Okay. Now, we're going to roll onto our back. Just simply do a log roll over. And when you're on your back, bend your knees so the soles of your feet are flat to the ground. Tuck your shoulder blades underneath you and bend your elbows so your fingertips point up towards the ceiling. So it looks like we're setting up bridge pose, which we are, but we're taking a variation. I'd like you to walk your heels about 4 inches towards the front of your mat. Yeah, so almost the length of your foot or the arch of your foot. Now press down firmly through your feet, down through the backs of your arms, hug your inner thighs in, curl your tailbone up, and then lift your hips up too. Okay, so as you hold bridge pose, what I'd like you to try to do is imagine that you could hug your heels up to where they'd normally be in bridge. So this engages your hamstrings and glutes a little more. Draw your heels essentially towards the backs of your shoulders, and they won't actually move unless you're crazy strong through your back body, but that's the engagement we're looking for. Make sure your breath is continuous. Okay, we'll take one more. And then slowly lower your hips back down. Okay, bring your palms down too. Now the release is to lift your feet up towards the ceiling, creating an L shape with your body. And that's just gonna add a little bit of length through the backs of your legs. We're going to take one more like that. You're welcome to take regular bridge pose if you like, but there's just an interesting differentiation with how you work your back body. So set your feet away from your hips. If you'd like to even take them further away, you can. Feel free to lift your toes and just keep your heels down on the ground. Press down through your arms. Your arms can be flat to the ground or your elbows bent, down through your feet, and then lift your hips up. As you lift your hips up and lift up through the center of your chest, try to hug your heels up towards your elbows, up towards the backs of your shoulders. So you're creating a bit of temporary contraction, even more so than you would in bridge. Okay, again, we're coming towards the end of the pose. So when you're ready, slowly lower your hips back down. Great. If you'd like to use the strap, you're welcome to. We're going to come into a hamstring stretch one leg at a time. So you can also use your hands to the backs of your thighs, but if you'd like to use the strap, it can come over your foot like a stirrup. Let's work with our left foot first. Press the sole of your left foot up towards the ceiling. And then your right leg can be bent at your knee with the sole of your foot to the ground, or you could straighten out your right leg. Try to keep your right kneecap turned up if that's the case. So sense if there's the right amount of tension in your left leg. There's various ways you can use the strap. You really want to make this as easy as you can through your upper body. So as Chris has done, he has his elbows bent so much that his upper arm bones are resting on the ground with lots of length in the strap. You can do that, or for some of you, you may want to walk your hands high up the strap. Just try to keep your shoulders down on the mat. And then you're bringing some of the tension into the strap, but also into your arms too, whichever you're most comfortable with. Yeah, don't worry if you need to put some bend in your knees. The pose evolves. There may be more tension than feels manageable, so it's no problem to adjust. Let's take a few more slow breaths. Left knee and set your left foot down, and we're simply going to trade sides. So take your right foot into the strap and bring your left foot down. Okay, so your left knee could be bent, or you could straighten out your leg. Again, if you've straightened your leg, try to keep your left kneecap turned towards the ceiling. Press your right foot up into the strap, and through the tension of the strap, hug your right foot down. Again, you can bend your elbows so much that your upper arm bones rest on the mat, or you could walk your hands up the strap so your arms are pretty much straight, but try to keep your shoulders down if you're doing that, so you're not hunching through your back. Yeah. Basically, let your head take on the support of the mat with your neck long. And your breath deep. Your breath, and especially the exhalation side of the breath, can help relax you even in the sensation and tension of the pose, making the best of a somewhat uncomfortable situation. Just another breath. All right. And then bend your right knee. Bring your feet to the ground with a bend in both knees now. Okay, so let's do a glute stretch. Lift your left foot up and cross your left outer foot for figure 4 over your right thigh. Keep your left foot flexed and press your left knee away from your left shoulder. Your right foot can stay on the ground. If it feels like a good idea to lift your right foot, if you feel some extra stretch through your left hip, that feels opening, you're welcome to. And there your hands can come to the back of your right thigh. And if they don't quite make it there, if you have a strap, this is another way you can use a strap, threading it around the back of your thigh, in between your legs and around the outer side of your right thigh. Try to keep your left knee drawn towards the left. Your left hand can even come and gently press your left inner knee open. Bring your feet to the ground. We're going to move to the other side. As you're ready, lift your right foot up, cross your right outer foot or ankle over so your right knee draws to the right. And then your left foot can stay on the ground, or you can lift your left foot up and take your hands to the back of your leg. Again, the strap can be used around the back of your leg to bridge the gap if you're kind of reaching up with a rounded back. So try to keep your right knee moving away from your right shoulder. If you wish, you can use your right hand to your inner right thigh as a is a way to gently open and roll your knee open. Try to keep the backs of your shoulder blades grounded and your neck long. Slowly release. Bring your feet back down. Move your knees a few times side to side to release your back, to release your glutes. We're coming to Savasana, and so if you'd like to bring your knees in towards your chest, that may be a good release for your back body, tucking your legs in, even a little bit of motion side to side. And then release for Shavasana and take your time. If there's any props that would serve peace and comfort in your body for a few minutes, then it could be a blanket, could be a bolster underneath your knees, bolster for you, yeah. Maybe something low and soft behind your head like a pillow. Okay, so as you settle down into the ground, let's take a slow breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Yourself to give away any effort that still exists, either consciously or unconscious holding in your face or shoulders or hips. Feels good to stretch out all the way, reach your hands back, press your feet forward with a deep breath. Okay. Bend your knees, place the soles of your feet flat. Raise your right arm overhead and roll over onto your right side into fetal pose. way up slowly to a comfortable seat. Sit up tall, gently, and bring your palms together to heart center. So thank you for your practice. Hope you have a peaceful day. Namaste.